Hello and welcome back. In our last lesson, we took a look at the layout and the grid lines and the absolute importance of them. In this lesson, I'm going to show you the Pages panel and how to manage the pages on your site. You can have as many different pages as you'd like, or you could have a one-page site, depending on whichever you prefer. In this case, you can see we have different pages. The way we structure the site is we place different content onto different pages. For example, you could have a home page, an about page, and a contact page. Alternatively, you could put all of this content on one site. And if you do that, I'm going to show you how you can use an anchor to get your user to a new place on the site as quickly and as easily as possible. So let's take a look at our Pages panel. Here we can see we have all the pages in our site, and this will help us navigate through the site. So currently we have a home page, terms and conditions, shipping policy, a shop, an FAQ, and a privacy policy. In this case, as we have the terms and conditions and the shopping policy already in our footer, we're going to remove these. So the way to do this is by clicking the ellipsis menu, and to go down, you can click Hide. We will also hide the shipping policy. The reason we're not deleting these pages is that they're also linked in the footer. So if we deleted them, the user would not be able to get to the page at all. Now you can see we have home, FAQ, and privacy policy. We'll also hide the privacy policy. As this site is for a store, we can see that our shop is hidden. So it's really important that we unhide that. So let's go ahead and show it. Brilliant. A couple of other cool things that we can do, for example, are duplicate your page. So let's say you have a really cool design that you love and you'd like to add other content to it on a new page, you can do that. So you're going to click the ellipsis menu and you're going to go down to duplicate. We can see here now that we have both a home page and a copy of home. In this case, we don't need both of these, so we're going to delete it again. I'm now going to show you how you can set one page as a subpage of another. In this case, I'm going to show the terms and conditions, just to show you how it works. So I think we'll set the FAQ page as a subpage of the terms and conditions. So let's rearrange the order, and let's click the ellipsis menu and click subpage. We can see now that the FAQ page is indented and it's under the terms and conditions. So let's go to preview and see how this works. You can see here when we hover over terms and conditions, we see FAQ beneath it. So FAQ is a subpage of the terms and conditions. Let's go back to the editor and make FAQ a main page again. You click the ellipsis menu, go down and click main page. Perfect. In this case, let's say you'd like to delete a page, you can just scroll down and click delete. We can see that this page is now gone. But what happens if you delete a page by mistake? It's no problem. As I mentioned in the first lesson, you can always click the undo button if you've made a mistake. So let's click undo and bring the FAQ page back. Perfect, there it is. So let's go back to our home page and let's take another look at our menu. When we click Manage Menu, it helps us to see what pages will be shown in the menu. And these are the ones that are set to show as opposed to hide. In this case, we're going to hide the terms and conditions, as I mentioned earlier, because we don't need them. Perfect. So now we have home, FAQ, and shop. As this site is a shop, I think it's really important that the shop button is ahead of the FAQ. So let's rearrange that. All you need to do is click on the shop button and pull it upwards above the FAQ. Now we can see in our menu that we've got the home, the shop, and the FAQ. Now we're going to take a look at the layout of our menu. When you click layout, you can choose how your text is aligned. Currently it's aligned to the center. We can align it left, or we can align it right. In this case, we're going to keep it aligned to the center. We can also choose to display items from the left to the right, or the right to the left. This can depend on the language that you're using. In our case, we're going to keep it from left to right. Also, it's really great to know that you can completely customize your menu. We've chosen a themed menu. You can choose a completely different themed menu if you'd like, or you can keep the menu that you have and choose Customize Design. That's what we're going to take a look at. You can do a lot of things in terms of customization. The first thing you can do is change the sub-menu background. You can set this to any color that you like. You can also add corners to your sub-menu. You can enable a shadow on your menu. You can change the text, the colour, the font, and the font size. Let's, for example, change the font size from 16 to 20. You can see how much that increased. In this case, we'll keep it at 16. Now let's take a look at spacing. You can change the spacing from the bottom in pixels. Perfect. You can also stretch your menu, which will stretch it to full width of the top bar. In this case, again, we're going to keep it just small. We can pull it back, place it where we'd like it to be. As I mentioned in the last lesson, the grid lines are so important, and you can see on this that the grid line has set all of our important content to the right. That's why we have the menu and the call to action button placed to the right. As I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, if you have a really long site as opposed to a site that has many different pages, I'm going to show you how to add an anchor so you can take your site visitor to a certain point on the site. So let's do that. Firstly, we'll scroll down and choose a point on the site that we would like to use. I think the subscribe section is really important. A subscribe section tells your users to sign up and subscribe to the site. We really want our users to sign up so that we can tell them when we have discounts, deals, and just news updates in general. So let's add an anchor here. What we will do is we'll go to the menus and pages, and we're going to click this link here, which says add a link. So let's click it. You can link many things here. You can choose a page, a web address, an anchor, a top or bottom of page, a document, an email, a phone number, or a lightbox. In this case, we're going to choose anchor. You can see here you can choose which page you'd like to place your anchor on. In this case, we're on the home page, so we're going to choose home. Then it says which anchor on this page, but we have not created any yet. So let's click it and it says add an anchor. Perfect, let's do that. There we go. We can see that we've added the anchor. So let's rename this anchor to subscribe. And click enter. We see our anchor here, and in this case we're going to pull it up ever so slightly, so when the user clicks the link to it, it will bring us just to the top of where the subscribe text is. We can see that when we added the anchor, it gave us a new link in the menu where there's an anchor to the left. We're going to rename this link. So let's call it also subscribe and click done. Now, let's take a look at our menu. Now we have a home, subscribe, shop, and FAQ. So let's go to preview and see what happens when we click subscribe. So we go to the top of our page, now click subscribe, and you can see it takes us down automatically to the place on the page where the subscribe is. As I mentioned, it's really amazing to have this available, as you can direct your user to different points on the one page of your site, and it's particularly good if you have a lot of content on the one page. As I mentioned, it's up to you what way you'd like to create your site. You can have different pages with different content, or you can have different strips and sections on your site for different content. So in this lesson, we've covered the Pages panel. I've showed you how to manage your menu, how to customize your menu, and how to add an anchor and link that anchor to your menu. In our next lesson, I'm going to show you how to add different elements to your site. I mentioned that we have a lot of different types of elements, and I'm going to show you how to add them. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'll see you there.